Welcome back to some new r/PettyRevenge stories, where people share small victories over those who wronged them. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. And now let's start with the first story. It's called Inconsiderate Jerks. A few years ago I pulled into my local petrol station. All the pumps were in use, so I waited behind one of them for the van using it to finish up. After a while the driver strolled out of the shop without a care in the world. Despite the queue of cars waiting, he walked back to his van and, instead of moving, started chatting with the driver at the next pump, who seemed to be his friend. The two of them could clearly see the rest of us waiting, but they seemed to enjoy holding everyone up. They even turned to laugh when another driver politely asked them to move. This went on for about 5 more minutes, before they finally decided to leave. The van driver, as it happened, was a plasterer, and his name and phone number were prominently displayed on his vehicle. I made a note of his details, because sometimes pettiness calls for action. A few weeks later I called him up, pretending to be a homeowner. I said I had a house in need of renovation, and asked for a crow to board out and skim the entire place. He was thrilled at the prospect of such a big project, and eagerly agreed to come and take a look. I gave him the address of a rundown house a few streets away, that had recently sold at auction. The next day he went to the property as planned. I, of course, wasn't there. He called and left a few voicemails, asking where I was. Later I called him back, very apologetic, explaining that my husband had fallen off a ladder and I had to take him to the hospital. He was annoyed but agreed to reschedule. A few days later we arranged another meeting. Once again I didn't show up. This time his messages were clearly more irritated. I called him back, apologized again, and said I completely understood how frustrating it must have been for him to wait around and waste his time. Then I casually mentioned that it reminded me of the time I was at a petrol station, waiting for a pump, and some inconsiderate drivers held everyone up, while laughing at those waiting. That's when I heard the penny drop. He exploded with frustration, but I couldn't help bursting into laughter. It was priceless. For the next few weeks, I dealt with a flurry of annoyed texts and calls, which I just blocked one by one. Eventually he gave up. I hope he learned an important lesson. Actions have consequences. The next story is called Back Way Up. As I was leaving a store, I was backing out of a parking space in a narrow, one-way parking aisle that directed traffic away from the store. Just as I got out of my spot, I noticed a large truck with a trailer pulling out from a double spot much further down. There were plenty of empty spaces around him to maneuver, but instead of exiting the correct way, he decided to go against the flow of traffic. I saw what was happening and could have pulled back into my spot to let him pass, but I decided this was a good opportunity to encourage him to follow the proper traffic flow in the parking lot. So I confidently continued driving toward him as he came toward me, hoping he'd get the hint and realized the importance of following the aisle's one-way rule. We ended up getting quite close before he finally stopped. He honked. I honked. I gave him a calm but determined look. After a bit of a standoff, he finally conceded and reversed his trailer about 20 parking spots to exit the correct way. The third story is called Made Him Late. This happened back in 2012 or 2013. I was driving downtown, looking for a parking spot. One opened up right where I needed to be. I turned on my signal and made that slight move to the right. That lets everyone know I was about to parallel park. Just as I was about to start backing in, a transit bus pulled right up behind me, bumper to bumper, making it impossible for me to park. Now, in my opinion, a professional driver should know better. So, being a patient person, I decided to wait him out. The bus driver started waving his hands and honking his horn, clearly frustrated. But I wasn't in any rush. I had a few hours to spare. I pulled out my notebook and started doing some work in the car while he kept honking. Traffic started to back up on this main downtown road, and the situation got more tense. I could tell the bus driver was not having a good day. Eventually, someone with authority arrived and explained to the bus driver that he was in the wrong. However, by that point, the backed up traffic meant he couldn't reverse, and I didn't want to lose my parking spot. So I agreed to move forward, just enough for the bus to pass into the opposing lane. This allowed me to park where I originally intended. I'm pretty confident that the bus driver won't try a move like that again. And I'll admit, there was some satisfaction in knowing he had to explain to his boss why he ended up behind schedule. The last story is called Invisible. Years ago, I worked at a public school. The district assigned us a temporary administrator, a man who seemed to know what was wrong with everything and everyone, and how to fix it all. He drove us absolutely up the wall. I jokingly spent his entire tenure making bets on who would be the first to try cramming him into our locker. One of his biggest pet peeves was how people would leave the office to handle things, instead of staying in what he called the command center. He believed everything should be managed from there. One day he walked into the office and found the receptionist in the restroom, the principal in a meeting, and the office manager out checking on something. Meanwhile, I, the registrar, was quietly working at my desk, head down. This man walked to the center of the room and announced over the radio to the entire team, about 15 people, including the principal in her meeting, "This office is completely empty. What if a parent walked in?" Here's the kicker. He was standing 5 feet away from me. I calmly picked up my radio and replied for everyone to hear, "Doctor, I'm right here. Hi. And by the way, your glasses are on your head, sir." Thanks for watching the video to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. Also, if you want to support me further, check out the channel membership or Patreon. And now, I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.